Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Stormworks. I decided to start up a new series of Stormworks about 1 year after the last one that I did, because Stormworks has been given a big update. We are now on version 1.0.19, and as Stormworks goes, stave games usually continue to work for a couple of versions, but more importantly, with version 1.0, we are now getting dynamic missions. Previously, Stormworks had a couple of scripted missions, shall we say. Go here, rescue these survivors, go back. It was simple fetch quests. Right now, these fetch quests have been replaced with dynamically generated missions, which means that the ships that you have to either, first find, and that's a new thing altogether, you're given a search area that says go here and look for this person, or ship, or fallen aircraft, or whatever it is. And then, depending on what you find at the location, you either have to put out a fire, rescue people, both potentially, and various other quests that I probably haven't even discovered yet. Now, Stormworks is an ideal series to do a bit more calm content, which means that there will be no ad interruptions. It's just going to be me building ships, sailing around with ships, and trying to rescue people as possible. When possible, I might have a couple of guests on the series, because some of these things are just more entertaining if you play them with other people. And some things are just easier if you have either a co-pilot, co-operator of your ship, or somebody to just assist you with, for example, search and rescue efforts. I'm going to be starting this one first in my solo campaign. I'm going to go for a classic career. This means that the career mode that you see here is not quite the classic experience. Because with this, you can still have research, whereas in career, you don't have research and you just have money as a limiting factor. That came out with 1.0, and I was very much disappointed with the way that they implemented that. I really didn't like that. I want my research. I want a sense of progression, and I'm glad that they listened to the community and put that back in. Now today is 1909-2020, so that'll be my world seed, and you can follow along with that if you want to. As for add-ons, I'm going to disable the tutorial because I don't need that. Alright, let's confirm and start the game. Alright, so welcome back to our little cottage on the beginner island. At the moment, I can see the railway in the distance, and this tells me more or less where some of the other parts of the island will be. This is just one of those in-between islands. It doesn't have anything on it. We do have the location of the St. Sebastian's Hospital, and we know that this railway continues to the southeast. I have exactly 5 research points and 15,000 budget, and I'm going to start researching, starting with the linear speed sensor, following the sensor pattern. So that's going to be the first priority, because then I can tell what is going on and how fast I'm going. And in the meanwhile, let's start designing a ship. Right now, there's no emergency at the moment, and that serves me quite well. Alright, I'm going to be building a new ship. We have, since the last time that I played a series on this, quite a lot of new blocks. All of these pyramids have been introduced, and that allows you to create some really, really nice hull shapes. I'm still definitely not the best at building these ships. I'll see what I can do with the ships. But overall, there are people who have created some beautiful creations on the Steam Workshop. And I would very much recommend that you check those guys out if you ever want to find any particular ship. There are people who have built all sorts of ships that are very true, or at least as far as they can be, true to form from real-life vehicles, including, from what I have seen, real-world ships that are used as emergency vessels or rescue boats. Now, as for this ship, I want to make it one which has 2 engines. This will allow it a decent amount of speed, and at the same time, hopefully not use too much fuel. I am not playing with limited fuel enabled, because overall, I don't find it that fun. Especially when you're testing out a new ship. It becomes a massive hassle, because all that you're doing is constantly filling up the ship. Hold on, this whole bow form is probably not going to work too well. All that you're doing is constantly filling up the ship, spawning it in, and then figuring out, oh crap, this doesn't work too well. And you're just despawning it and filling it back up and so forth and so on. So that's not something that I'm going to be doing for this particular playthrough. We're going to be operating without fuel, and once I have the custom fuel tanks enabled or researched, I can just make a custom fuel tank, and that's going to make it significantly easier to just get a fuel tank going and not really have to worry about the capacity. Also, measuring the fuel at that point will be a hell of a lot easier, and that is going to be important later on when we are doing search missions. And those search missions can take a lot of fuel, because you are given a search area, and within that search area it's just, hey, somewhere in here is your objective. Good luck. Sometimes you might be given a relatively small search area, sometimes you might be given a really large search area, and I have had it happen that the ship just runs out of fuel. And of course, if that happens, well, it's not great for survivors, shall we say. Now, I want to have one of these things like that, and another one of these pyramids here. There. Alright, so this is going to be the general hull shape. It means it's long and sleek. This can have some serious impacts on the abilities of the ship to maneuver, because she's going to probably roll quite heavily when the weather is not great. And weather, I haven't mentioned it, but weather is one of the other things that they have significantly changed in Stormworks. You now have, I'm not sure if weather systems are the exact term for it, but weather from one area tends to move to another area. And that means that the weather that your neighbors are currently having can soon be the weather that you're going to be having. And that is fairly important, because it means that you need to figure out, okay, what is the area next to me doing weather-wise, and how is that potentially going to impact me? Now, I'm going to put the engines pretty far forward. I'm thinking of going with these in a line formation, so one here and one here, because that'll put quite a bit of the weight on the bow, not lifting the bow out of the water too much, and this way hopefully improving the seakeeping capabilities of this ship. As for cooling, I'm going to go with a couple of radiators. I tend to work quite a bit with water-cooled ships, which means that they take out water from the ocean. The problem with that is that if your bow jumps out of the water, you are not going to be cooling the engine anymore, and you have a serious risk of overheating your engine. Generally not what you really want for your ship. Now, these two things are going to keep the ship at a decent speed. I have the exhausts on this side, and I have the fuel on this side. So I'm going to pipe the fuel things together. Actually, I can use the mirror feature with this, because that will save me a bit of time. So this one's going to be piped back. It's going to join with this one. And that means I'm going to have one of these things here, and a straight pipe like that. Let's paint these. This is fuel. And I know that this might not be the official scheme or color, whatever you want for these things, but it's usually the one that I use, so that I know what is what. Gray is exhaust, black is fuel. That's the way that I remember it. As for fuel tanks, currently I don't have much other than the medium fuel tanks, which I'll put towards the bow of the ship. Again, trying to keep most of the weight on there, making sure that it doesn't really transfer over to the back too much. Pipe these things together. And then set up a T-piece. Pipe these together. 1, 2. I'll have a pipe cross here. And then I'm gonna have to pipe that thing into the fuel line. Couple more straight pipes here. 1 here. 2 there. Okay, and then I can paint these all dark, so I know exactly that these are fuel tanks. I mean, the fact that there are fuel tanks is pretty obvious, but now I know exactly where that line goes. Next one is going to be the exhaust. I'm still not quite sure how I'm going to make the exhaust for this ship. Probably somewhere on the back, or rather the stern, I should say, because that way I'll have the exhaust not get into my face. As for the stern of the ship, I want to have it actually a bit more sleekly, if that's a word. I'll take a 1x2 pyramid, like that. And then, let's see. I could have the props underneath the ship, but I'd rather have them in line with the center of mass, which you can see here, indicated by that block. If I put them over there, they're a little lower than center of gravity, but that's not too bad. That means that the ship gets pushed up out of the water, hopefully. And by doing that, she might be a little bit easier to do seakeeping with. Just attach this here. And then another one of these. Ideally, I would not come into personal contact with the props. Because if that happens, then there is a very large chance that you're going to find yourself chunked up by the props. Generally not great for your health, and especially not great for any kind of passengers that you might be taking on board. Slash people that you might be rescuing. So be careful as you're doing stuff like that. Alright, another one of these then. And this can go up like this. There we go. This is sort of a swim-on ramp, if you will. And hopefully it's going to allow me to get onto the ship fairly easily. Now, we do need a rudder on this boat. I mean, you need a rudder on any boat, but this one in particular, because we're going to be doing pretty fine maneuvering with this thing. Alright. With those things attached, I can now pipe these things together and make sure that they eventually end up at a gearbox system. Pipe, straight, pipe, T-piece. I'll have a clutch to make sure that I can indicate whether or not I want the power to be distributed to the propellers. Then I want to have another pipe T-piece. And I want to have a generator on here. Oh, actually, no, not yet. There needs to be a gearbox here first. Like that. And then another gearbox like that. Then we're going to have the pipe T-piece. Then I can set up my generator nicely in the middle of the ship. One is going to be a reverse gearbox. So if toggled, it's going to go into reverse. And the other one is going to be 3 to 2 and 9 to 5. So 9 rotations, or 5 rotations here on the engines, get turned into 9 rotations on the propellers. And this way I get more, more power out of the ship, basically. Let's see. I'm thinking of going with the deck for this one. So the deck would be here. And that would mean the main propeller shaft is going to go over here, down there. Yeah. The only thing I still need to do is pipe out, or pipe in, the standard air for the ship. For that, I'll take a port, a couple of fluid ports. And these can be pretty far on the bow. That should not be a problem. I generally have 2, because I find it a bit safer to just not have 1. If you have 1 and it dips below the water, then the engine is going to take on a, well, a mouthful, shall we say, of water through the air intake. And engines generally don't take kindly to that. Pipe out the air, or rather pipe in the air. spin that one round. T-piece here. And this one. Oh, hold on. I think... No, actually this is fine. This is going to go here. And then a pipe angle up. And one going that way. Alright, that should fix that. This is going to be the deck of the boat. I'm intentionally keeping quite a bit of air in here, making sure that all this air stays trapped. And that'll keep the boat afloat. That's the way that it generally works in Stormworks. Now we still have the stern to close up. And I'll do that, let's see. This closes up the stern, at least the props area. And I want to have this part as the actual, let's say, deck space. So this is where I'm going to be operating the ship from. And it's also going to be the part from where I store my passengers. Well, store, you know, where the passengers will sit, shall we say. I'm going to take this line off, close this one up again. And then I still need to connect this system. Because that's what we were doing. That was the pipe angle, pipe straight. Actually, it can be just a standard pipe. That goes there, connects to this one. I still have 11,000 left, which is more than enough to build the rest of the ship out. And hopefully, during one of my first missions, I'll be able to encounter a couple of chests. Maybe just the one is enough. And I'll be able to get a bit more cash. And more cash is much appreciated in this game. It allows you to buy new facilities, either airfields or other assets where you can build bigger ships. And those, of course, are going to be very important for the rest of what I have in plan, or what I have planned with this series. Insofar as I do have a plan. Alright, so this is going to be the general hull form. And I'll have the control seat over here. I'll have a couple of passenger seats over here. And, importantly, I'll have equipment. And lots of it, because you now have handheld equipment. Ranging from binoculars to a compass to a defibrillator, fire extinguishers, first aid kits, flares, flare gun ammo. We have a lot of different stuff. And a lot of this stuff is going to be pretty important. Now, first, the seat. I have access to quite a few. Unfortunately, I don't have any one of them stored. Let's just go with the standard pilot seat. Just take out a bit of deck space here. And then set the pilot seat up there. Now for the windows. I'm going to go with one more layer over here, so I can still put a couple of dials on there. So 2 layers, and then large windows. No, that's not convenient, because I'll be looking at one of those barriers. Angled window. Couple of corner windows. No, actually that would be inconvenient for the passengers because they will get splashed. Which they probably won't like too much. Whereas if I do it like this, everybody's going to be getting a little bit of cover from... Well, I'm not so sure if you can call it splash damage, but you know, waves in general. There. Now I can delete these blocks. They were holding the window in place, but I don't need them anymore. I can now set up dials. And importantly, I'll have quite a few. Because I need dials for my speed, my RPS, my fuel. I'm going to need quite a few of these. I probably won't be using all of them, but hey, it's handy to have a quick view of whatever's going on with the ship. This is going to be RPS. rotations per second on engine 1, ranging from 0 to 25. RPS on engine 2, ranging from 0 to 25. And that's going to go here. This is going to go here. Then we have fuel. 0 to 600, I think. I should have an X4 fuel combiner. Now this is just a microcontroller that, and I have a tutorial on how you build one of those, that adds up whatever fuel is in this ship. Oh, I still need to finish the exhaust, by the way. Let's open up the deck so I don't forget that. This is going to make sure that I know exactly how much fuel there is on the ship. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, and 4 fuel tanks. And this one's going to go here. There we go. I'll also need a battery. Stormworks has been updated to also include these warning signs that says, hey, you forgot one thing. Or these parts are not properly connected yet. And currently all the systems on the ship are complaining that they do not have a battery. They're correct. They don't yet have a battery. They don't have access to anything yet. As for the exhaust, I'm thinking of piping that out both sides. Here-ish. The thing is, it has to be above water. Let's see, how deep does this ship reside in the water currently? We'll call this the Quinn 1, after my newborn. Alright, so she's fairly comfortable in the water, relatively high, and I can see that this layer should be clear to build on. Now, if I pipe out the exhaust on this side, or rather on both of these sides, I'll need pipes, starting with a pipe angle. This is where the exhaust from the engine is going to go into. Continue on with this pipe over here. And then it's not quite symmetrical, but it doesn't really need to be, so long as these are both connected. T-piece. Then I can have a couple of straight pipes. These I do want in symmetry mode. An angle pipe. Another angle pipe. And then a port. So that I'll be able to pipe out the fuel. Not the fuel. I'll be able to pipe out the exhaust. And then another one of these triangles here, or pyramids. So that's where the fuel, I keep calling it fuel, where the exhaust is going to go. Next up, equipment lockers. Equipment lockers. I'm thinking that I don't have a hatch, I don't have a door. No. So the equipment is going to have to come somewhere into the deck here. That's not necessarily ideal, because it'd be either over here, or I'd be setting up a couple of seatings over here and just have my equipment lockers close to me. Maybe that's the better way to do it. These are going to be padded seats. One there, one there, one there. I can now have 6 people on the boat. Let's go with 8. And then the equipment lockers. What do I need? Binoculars is something that your character carries standardly, but at some point I might lose those. So we're going to set up a binocular locker. Cable management, not necessarily. I'll have a defibrillator on this side, making sure that I can resuscitate people. I'll have first aid kits also here. Let's see, flare guns, or rather, sorry, this is a standard flare. I would like a flare gun. And a flare. I'll also want night vision goggles. These are pretty expensive, by the way. Where are they? Rope, remote control unit, here. Oh, actually, they're not that expensive. They're 50 a piece. Never mind. So this is part of the, let's say, the vision side. This is more part of the first aid side. I'm going to need a fire extinguisher on the ship. Potentially more than one. because this way I can put out fires on other ships. On this side, I'm going to have an empty locker. Sometimes you just carry stuff that you want to get rid of, and you might have despawned your ship, and this is going to help with that. What else? Welding torch. This is going to allow you to repair units. 200 each. Definitely a bit more expensive. And we have an underwater welding torch. Not going to carry that. I think that's a bit too much. Strobe lights, ropes, remote control units, radios. This is handy. A radio signal locator. Sometimes you're going to get missions where it says, hey, you need to go here and you need to find this boat. And that can take a while. But sometimes those things have a particular useful item, which is called a locator. And with that, you can very quickly, by using audible signals, find out where that thing is. Let's see, we have rope, a large equipment storage containing 20 meters of rope. Right. What boat doesn't carry rope? And do I also need rope anchors then? Welding torch, underwater torch. Small equipment locker over here, an empty one. Remote control unit's a bit overpowered for what I have in mind with this boat. A hose. 20 meters of fluid hosing. Could be handy later on, but at the moment I don't have a water or a firefighting equipment set on the boat yet. So I'll just have to make do without it. And I think that this pretty much covers most of what I need, if not all of it. I'll have a rope anchor on the nose of the boat, so I can actually tow it in case I need to. I also have connectors. Again, these can come in very handy. I want to have a light on here. I also want to have a couple of lights over on this side. No, not there. Here. And I'll have one over here. I might actually be able to sort of... how shall I put this? An arc over the stern of the boat, where I can also put up a light and potentially some more searchlights. So if I were to do that, it would look something like this. And probably too wide. Now these are... oh, they're 150. They need to be one taller. Characters are 175 meters on this game. So like that. I can also have another light on there. Again, making it a bit easier to find. A light. Thank you. That one. One thing I did on a craft that I built for myself was to have one of these on almost every side. And then to have a sort of circle like that. This way you have light going every which way. Right, control surfaces then. I'm going to need a push button to start the boat. So this is going to be the starter. And I'm going to tie that into engines 1 and 2. Then I'm going to need a throttle. Gotta be careful not to accidentally remove any of my equipment lockers here. This is going to go to the throttle of both of the boats. And I'll have a toggle for the clutch. I'm going to need a toggle for reversing or not. That's going to be, let's say, yeah, this one. Reverse. This one is the other one that ties into the lower gear. And I'm actually going to... let's put it to 9 to 5 or 3 to 2. This way, I'll have more speed. So we're going to call this fast mode, lacking a better term. And then this is going to be the toggle for the clutch. And for that, I also have a microcontroller. If you want to see exactly what that does or how that works, I have a tutorial for building a clutch switch. It's really a simple system. Makes your life a lot easier though. That goes there, and this goes here. Alright. I can start the boat, I can speed up the boat, I can make sure that we slow down, we reverse. I'd say we have quite a few of the systems that I would need for the boat initially. We still, however, need a light switch to toggle on or off all the lights on the boat. This is going to be lights. It's going to tie into all the displays. The light on the bow, light on the starboard and port side of the ship, these lights, and that one. Now this is still a starter boat, but it's a pretty well-equipped starter boat. This thing has quite a lot of systems on board already. What I still need to do, however, is set up a control system to make sure that I can turn the boat. A and D goes to the rudder. And you can more or less have W and S to go to throttle up and throttle down, but I usually just use 1 and 2 for that. This is going to be not a toggle button, but a push. Throttle up and throttle down. Display name, the Quinn 1. Now all of these things still need to be equipped to actual systems such as power. So, where's my battery? Over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not sure if all of these need power, but sometimes you need to recharge your equipment, and I think that that's when the battery is going to come in handy. I still have a couple of those dials that I'm not actively using. I might replace those later, but currently they're just more or less placeholders, making sure that I can use them later, in case I need to. Are you still not connected? It is complaining about something. Electric not connected. Are you sure? Yeah, now you're not connected. This thing is also saying I'm not connected, but it is, this gearbox. Alright, I say we're ready to take the Quinn 1 out for a test drive. Last thing to do is to paint it. I'm not great at painting, especially since I don't have the ability to use the paint blocks yet. So I'll use a bit of a, let's say, a dark color scheme for this part. This here. Bottom of the boat, all dark. I can still use a wedge. Let's make it a 4x1. Because this is the part where my rudder's sticking out. And then there is a pyramid, 1x4. So we can sort of close this part off. Alright, paint that again. Selector, black. Done. This is probably easier to just paint by hand. And I'll go with the red color scheme for this part. Red over there, red over here. Actually, I want one white line over the boat here. Oops, that's a bit much. That part there. Back to the red. Do I have everything? No, not quite. Plain fill. I want these things to remain white, the windows. These should be red, however. The intakes. These should be white. Oh, I still need to make a toggleable connector here. The thing is, the ship might be upside down when this thing needs to get toggled. So I'll put that toggle over there. It might not be the most logical place, But this is more or less an emergency system, so that I can still bring the boat back in case she gets pulled upside down or she's out of fuel or whatever. So this is toggle connector. Okay, I have no idea of telling, or no way of telling how fast the ship's going to be, simply because I don't have a speedometer yet. So we'll just have to make do without. Money left, 7,265. And it looks like the ship's perfectly happy. Do we have a mission? Not yet. Alright, well, whoops. We'll just take this thing out for a test drive. Give it a bit of throttle. Start the engines, RPS green. Clutch. Throttle to full. Clutch, not operational. Okay. What went wrong there? Hold on, is this light not connected? No, it's not. What is going on with the clutch? Output to clutch. Clutch pressure. Toggle, yeah, that should be working. What exactly do I have in this microcontroller? Numerical 1 to 0. If it's on 1, otherwise it's off. Yeah, that should be working. Is everything connected there? Pipe goes here, pipe goes here, pipe goes there. Yeah, that should be working. We have that stuff going to the props. Pipe goes there, pipe goes there. Yep. This is the B output, right? Just checking. Yep, that's the B output, so that should work. Why is my clutch not working? The button has power, otherwise I couldn't operate it. Oh, it's not connected properly. It's the reverse. This is the clutch. So that one goes there, and the reverse goes there. There's always something that gets misaligned. Alright, throttle, start engines, clutch, and we got movement. Alright, now we have... Holy shit, that's a search mission. We have to find this particular craft. And that's going to take a while. So I'm going to do that in the next episode. The next one, we're going to try and find this boat, and that's going to take quite a while, but maybe since they have a transponder, there is hope. Before we end up, or finish up, I'm going to speed up a bit more. I find that the bow of the boat's actually a bit heavy. I might extend it a bit more, or see if I can make sure that the bow of the boat's a bit lighter, because we seem to have a bit of a tendency to dip into the waves, which is not great. Also, it looks like the RPS of the ship's not doing quite as well as I'd liked. Do the lights work? Not all of them. I don't have all of them connected. It's not unusual for some of these sea trials to turn out to be less than effective. To find that some of the stuff just doesn't quite work as well as you had hoped. So, we'll listen to more sea trials, and in the next episode we're going to try and take on this mission. Although, I think I might see it already. There's a fire raging on that island over there. So next time around we're going to check that out. For now, I hope you enjoyed the building of the Quinn one. And I shall see you guys in next week's episode, where we're actually going to find that craft, see what I can do about it, and then potentially get some rewards. Hope you guys enjoyed the return of Stormworks. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be continuing the series, but there will definitely be another episode next week. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon for the next one.